Hello and welcome to this edition of Code Authority's virtual Lunch and Learn series. In today's session, I'm going to tell you all about CodeLaunch, a little bit about the history and the present event coming up, as well as the future. My name is Jason W. Taylor. I am the president and founder of Code Authority, which is now an improving company. CodeLaunch, Seed Accelerator, and Startup Expo, which is something we started about 8 years ago. And I have about 25 years of entrepreneurial experience and quite a bit of experience working with startups the last 8 years at CodeLaunch. Well, I just alluded to it, so I'm going to take a second to tell you who Improving is. These wonderful people right behind me, including me right there on the front row in the white shirt. That was me and my new business partners at Improving, all 500 of us at our annual retreat in Las Vegas last October, right after Code Authority and CodeLaunch were acquired by Improving, a moment that I worked for a long time and I'm very proud of, as well as everybody at Code Authority and CodeLaunch is excited to be involved with and looking forward to our futures together. Well, let's start with what is CodeLaunch. Well, it's an annual tech startup expo where angels, developers, and startup founders collide in a space where companies are launched. So it is a tech startup expo. One day, it is networking. It is a seed accelerator competition for early stage tech startups that are pre-MVP. That's key. We're going to come back to that. This will be the 8th annual event on September 10th this year here in Frisco, Texas. We, right at the present moment, are not planning to do any kind of virtual anything. We're planning on not canceling our event, and we're planning on producing a normal face-to-face big, fun, energetic event for our startups and our startup community here in North Texas. And we may or may not tweak a few things. We're definitely going to have some public safety measures in place to make everybody feel confident and safe. And but if we make any changes to the flow and format, we will announce those by June 30th. The finalists are curated by our CodeLaunch team here, and they will receive seed services from our sponsors. In 2019, last year, those services all added together were worth more than $120,000 in lots of types of professional services. Why did we create CodeLaunch? Well, because in the first 7 or 8, 10 years of Code Authority software development consulting services, I encountered lots of startups that were completely screwed up. They had made terrible decisions trying to get their tech built. A lot of times they were really sophisticated business people that had great opportunities they had identified. They had all the reason in the world to believe they could execute at a high level, but they didn't understand the tech part, and they fell victim to cheap offshore gimmicks, moonlighters that didn't have experience bidding software projects, underbid the job, and then walked away. Those were two common problems I saw a lot. And I always wished, each time I met one of those, that I had met them the first day when they were hitting the ground trying to find someone to build their tech. So at first, I created CodeLaunch so that I would have access to these startups at the very early stage before they made mistakes. And then later, I realized that it was a great engagement with the public and a great way to serve the community and not just try to find deals I wanted to be a part of. So it grew and grew and grew, and it morphed each year a little bit. And it became something that now closely aligns with Improving, and before that, Code Authority's core values, which include conscious capitalism. and we're going to talk to that here in a minute. Where is CodeLaunch? Well, CodeLaunch this year, as for the 5th consecutive year, will be at the Comerica Center Arena here in Frisco, Texas. That is a rather large sport arena, and we just take over the floor. We put up a stage. The crowd watches from the stands, the finalist event, and then we all go to the Startup Expo, and there's music, there's food, drinks, fun, high energy, lots of great stuff at CodeLaunch. It usually starts around 3 in the afternoon and is over by 8 or 9 p.m. Who is CodeLaunch for? Well, if you're talking about the startups, it's for pre-MVP tech startups who need product development funding and are seeking a seed round. So with regard to the startups, what is required to apply? Well, the first thing you got to have is polished mockups or wireframes. That means not wireframes that are created in Excel. It means not wireframes that are drawn on a napkin. And mockups are obviously something that looks just like a user interface. And those give us a visual idea of what you're talking about. And they're absolutely necessary for anybody that ever wants to get funded to build a tech startup. What does it cost? This is the good news. It costs nothing but your time. Now, it may cost some money for you to get the mockups or wireframes done, but that is going to be necessary for anybody that's trying to create a tech startup. There is going to be some bootstrapping and some funds you're going to have to put in yourself. I would tell you that if you absolutely have zero funds to get your tech startup off the ground, there's a very good chance you have zero chance of ever going anywhere. Most accelerators, angel investors, VCs and the like, unless you have a big exit on your wall previously, they are going to want to see that you have bootstrapped the startup to some degree and have invested your own dollars. So other than there's no cost to apply, but if you make the finals, we will require you to travel here. Right now, unless something changes, we will require you to travel here even this year, and even if you're an international finalist, because the face-to-face interaction on the hackathon part is critical, and as well as the face-to-face interaction at our finalist pitch event. Last year, we were very honored to have our international finalists from Portugal travel here without any coercion or hand-wringing at all. And Ricardo from Materio had a great event, made some great connections, and elevated his startup progress in Europe by being part of CodeLaunch. Now let's go back to what I mentioned a minute ago, conscious capitalism. So CodeLaunch is a reflection of improving's core values and tight affiliation with the conscious capitalism movement. The pillars of this are shown here. We want to rise above the rest of the IT consulting profession by living into our core values and principles. That's why we put so much effort into CodeLaunch, giving freely to the tech startup community because we can make a difference. And so our whole organization believes in these principles and these pillars, and you'll see that reflected in the way we execute CodeLaunch and what it's all about. So let's talk a little bit about some of the metrics in our history. We touched this up at the beginning of the year in January. Some of the groups that have come out of it are going ever higher, and I talk to them every quarter, every half a year. So this will change throughout this year, but it was true at the very beginning of 2020. This will be our 8th annual event. All of the startups that have come through CodeLaunch, if you add up all the money they've raised after CodeLaunch, it's $4.5 million. If you add all the services that the startups have won and been a benefit of at the previous 7 CodeLaunch events, it's over $750,000 worth of services. We have actually accelerated 26 different startups. The total, that's not everyone that was in the finals. That's just the ones that got something more out of the finals, like they won, they received services. Every year's been different. When we first started, only one winner got anything out of CodeLaunch. So the number has grown each year. And we've got $5.5 million in revenue from various different startups that happened after CodeLaunch. And this year, we are shooting for a target, once again, of over $120,000 in seed services for our finalists. This is a slide that alludes to some of the sponsors that have been involved in the previous years and in last year particularly. I've highlighted UNT, local North Texas University, who is once again hopefully going to be our presenting sponsor for the 3rd year in a row at CodeLaunch. A lot of these other brands on here are brands that provided seed services to our finalists or helped us cover the cost of producing the event, or both. And many of the other ones just believe in it and like to be at it because it's such a fun one-day expo to develop their brand, connect with the people, and have a lot of fun. 2019 finalist benefits. So this is a breakdown of the $120,000 services that we were able to give the finalists last year. So we had 2 hackathon teams from both Code Authority and Improving. Now, I'll point out that last year and the year before, Improving was involved in CodeLaunch, and there was no merger acquisition. There wasn't even any talk of it until right after the event last year. So they were involved because they believed in the mission and the cause and the values and principles of CodeLaunch, just like I did. And that's what got us together. Some of these other groups like Social Media Torch, obviously I mentioned UNT, Optimus Business Plans, Try Digital, Digital Marketing Agency, Drive Influence, Pitch Coaching, and Christian Law Group. Those groups put together a pile of services, and we designated those for different startups that were in the finals. The future of CodeLaunch. Well, this is where it gets really exciting. Obviously, this year is in the future, but I'm talking about 2021 and beyond. So thanks to our great family at Improving, we are planning on taking CodeLaunch on the road. And we're going to produce a similar event, hopefully in at least 4 cities in 2021. And Dallas-Fort Worth will always be one of those. So we'll cover 3 new cities next year. And then I think in 2022, we'll rotate even in some more new cities. And by 2022, 23, this thing could be going all over the place. So we're really excited about the support and the backing that we have and the vision, future of CodeLaunch, thanks to our leadership partners with Improving. Who are the hackathon sponsors? Well, I have good news. We have Code Authority and Improving back, obviously, and that means the Dallas office of Improving is going to provide a hackathon team. Code Authority is going to provide a hackathon team, but we're going to switch things up a little bit this year, and I believe, and my goal is to have a hackathon team for all 4 finalists that are asked to come here. And that includes the international finalist and the youth finalist. And so I'm also going to announce something right here I haven't told anybody in the public. We are going to open this up to something I'm calling feral teams. So if you are a startup-minded, whiz-bang, new stuff, enthusiastic developer, and you've got a broad base of experience, both cloud, database, JavaScript, and mobile, and if you know some other mates and colleagues who are like you, we are going to open it up for individual groups to come in and pair with our finalists. That is if we can't get professional software development groups, brands that are software development consulting agencies to get on board. It's going to be really difficult this year because of the pandemic, but we're going to figure out a way to make all 4 finalists get a team no matter what. So in case you are affiliated with a consulting group in some form or fashion, maybe it's a small dev shop, maybe a vast, large, big six consulting, I've decided to put a slide in here for you. If you would like to be, your brand to be affiliated as a hackathon sponsor, all I need is 3 to 5 of your teammates for 3 days. I need your team to code their hearts out as hard as they can for those 3 days. And then on the 4th day, one of the teammates will go on with their startup on stage to demo what they got done. And this will promote what your team and your brand is capable of and help us elevate the entire startup ecosystem here in North Texas and the startups themselves from wherever they're from. And we're going to cover that in a minute too. John, how am I doing on time? 16 minutes. Okay, great. So finalists, what, where, and when? Well, the hackathon team that is going to be paired with you is usually one very strong leader architect type with 2 ambitious coders and maybe some cross-platform capabilities. Sometimes you can have a UI UX person in there for a few hours at the beginning and then swap that out with a developer when the UI UX is done. And then you can swap in a QA person at the very end. But all finalists and all hackathon team members must travel to Frisco from September 7th, which is Labor Day. So you'll need to be getting started at 3 p.m. on Labor Day, going Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday. We cut off at 5 p.m. No exceptions. So last year, like I mentioned, Materio founder Ricardo came all the way from Portugal, and he didn't even have a hackathon team because we weren't able to commit a hackathon team to the international finals last year. Unfortunately, CodeLaunch has gotten bigger and better each year, and so sometimes last year's group gets a little less than this year's group, and that's no different this year. So that's unfortunately for the past, but fortunate for this year's applicants. And then Thursday is our big event day, and then on Friday, yeah, sleep in. You're going to be tired on Friday. Everybody's tired on Friday if they were part of the hackathon team or a finalist or our whole entire production staff. And so most of us will take that day off. You can become a community partner to support CodeLaunch, and that is very easy and doesn't require any money. So if you are another brand in the startup community or in any way interested in getting in this space, and you have some social media reach, and you're willing to promote CodeLaunch, talk about what's going on and try to attract applicants or just attract people to attend on event day, you can be a community partner with CodeLaunch. And in exchange, we will also promote your brand on our social media, which is got thousands of followers and tens of thousands in our email database. And we will also put your brand and a valuable backlink to you and your site to help elevate your SEO. So we love community partners. If you would like to be a community partner, please reach out. It's easy to find us. You can contact us through the Code Authority site or the CodeLaunch.com website. All right, let's cover the categories that I've mentioned. So there are 4 categories to apply with in CodeLaunch. It starts with international. So if you are a international citizen, if you're based not in the United States, then it will ask you that question and it will automatically slot you in international. Right now we have about, I think 50% of our applications from international countries. And I think there's a slide coming up on that. And we have 50% domestic US states applicants. So if you say no, I'm not from international, then it's going to say, are you a full-time student? And that could be elementary school, middle school, high school, college, doctorate, master's degree, whatever. But if you're a full-time student, we're going to consider you youth. Maybe we should call that student since adults can be student. Anyway, it's the youth category. And then if you say, I'm not a student, then it's going to say, is your concept more about social impact and social change than it is profiteering? And we respect there's a lot of people and a lot of ideas like that that can make that impact, that should be just as valuable to our event and to the community. So if you say yes to that question, you'll be slotted in the social change category. And then if you answer no to those 3 questions, then it's going to assume that you're a U.S. citizen, you're not a student, and your idea and your purpose is to create something great that makes a lot of money. And obviously, we love those ideas too, and so you'll land in U.S. commercial. There'll be 1 finalist from each of these groups this year. And that means there'll be 4 pitches at pitch day. So what are the curation stages? What happens behind the scenes once the application deadline passes? Here's another tidbit of news. The deadline is currently June 30th. I pretty much decided in the last 3 days to move that back a few days to July 3rd, just because it was awkward to finish the deadline on a Tuesday in our office, and it's going to be better for us if we can promote it that whole week and then finish our applications at midnight, Friday, July 3rd. So that's not announced yet, but that's coming in the next few days. But then what happens after that? Well, in the quarterfinals, that's the first cut. So we look at every application and we look at the attachments, specifically the ones I mentioned, either wireframes or mockups, and the application itself, the concept, the team, all the details that are in there, where the person is, and we try to pick the ones that we think are just well-crafted, well-thought-out applications. We're not really criticizing the idea at that stage. We're just trying to make about a halfway cut. These are the best half, and these other ones need to work on it a little bit more. So we'll announce that about a week after the deadline, and then we'll immediately start getting really our hands dirty on the next group. And the next group, we're trying to identify the semifinals. So on that group, for the first time ever, we're going to give each one of those some homework. And what that means is you're going to have a small milestone to achieve and a short time to achieve it. And what we're trying to do is figure out who can hustle and who can execute, because execution is the key to any startup. And we've learned that lesson over the years with the many groups that have been through the event. So it's not going to be too intimidating. It's not going to cost you a lot of money, but it may cost you a little money and some time, some creativity, and some effort between you and your founding teammates. That could be create a placeholder web page with a domain, something like that. It could be go get a letter from a company in your space saying that they would commit to using your beta product in a business setting. Something simple that is meaningful. And so we're going to look at the groups that achieve the milestones, and then we're going to score those internally, and then we're going to announce our semifinalists. Now the semifinalists are going to get a 1-hour pitch meeting. So that is where we really start to evaluate the people, their ability to deliver an enticing, intriguing, energetic, and exciting message during their very tight pitch window of 5 minutes. So that can be via Skype or it can be in person. Sometimes people will travel here, even though they're from faraway places, to do their in-person pitch. Many times groups will pitch over Teams or Skype or Zoom or whatever you want to use. We're happy to do that. And we've had plenty of finalists make it from both categories. So don't feel like you have to be here, because you don't. But it's great if you are, because it helps us get to know you better and it helps you get to know us better. And then from that group, we are going to pick our finalists. And really, honestly, the finalists are going to be picked from those who met every milestone that we put in front of them. Had a great pitch, have a great pitch deck, have a clear, committed intent to attend the event and the hackathon, and then most of all, whose technology matches up with the skills of a team that we have. So we're going to have 4 teams, and maybe not all those teams are going to be super strong in mobile development. Last year we had a new piece of hardware. Maybe you know about last year's finalist Caracorder. The founder, Riley Keene, had invented a completely brand new keyboard, and he needed a device driver built. Okay, device drivers are not easy, and has a very specific technology, and so we couldn't just hand that over to 3 or 4 guys or gals that are super good at mobile development. That wouldn't make any sense. So we got our best low-level programmers, and we built a Caracorder device driver in their hackathon. And so that's how we're going to pair up. So we could have 6 or 7 finalists to consider, and then we're going to get with our finalist hackathon groups, and we're going to pick our 4. There's going to be a couple there that are going to be miss the cut just because we don't have enough skill set that matches their need. And I hope to get CodeLaunch to the point where we have so many hackathon teams that there is never anybody left out of that finals group. But that's where we're at right now. And then the pitch day event, those groups will have just finished their hackathons the night before. They're going to be practicing at noon that day. Doors are going to open around 3. Then there's an expo, and then there's music, and then here comes the big pitch event around 5:30. And hopefully they'll go on stage, demonstrate their technology, and have a great event. The crowd will choose the winner. So that brings us to something else that's new this year, and that is the 2020 CodeLaunch Afterburner. So we have a support volunteer this year named Josh Stramiello. You might have seen him on a previous CodeLaunch Lunch and Learn. And he's in charge of the Afterburner. The Afterburner is a 90-day competition that happens after CodeLaunch. So it's not going to end at CodeLaunch this year. And what that means is we're going to give each group what we think is a fair but maybe differing next 90-day milestone. Maybe the same, maybe differing, whatever's appropriate for their content and their execution path. And we're going to weigh those independently, and after 90 days, there's going to be a CodeLaunch Afterburner winner. That winner is going to get special recognition, probably more services, additional PR, and it might not even be the same group that won CodeLaunch that was selected by the attendees. So that one will be selected by us. Could be the same group, maybe a different one. So that's new this year, and we're hoping to make that part of a pillar of CodeLaunch going forward. So this is a topic I covered in the last Lunch and Learn, but I think it's appropriate here too. How does CodeLaunch differ from a typical seed accelerator? Well, I'm going to go straight down to the bottom bullet point there, which is CodeLaunch does not take equity like all accelerators do. And I say all there because I don't know of any other accelerators that put serious effort, money, time, and sweat into accelerating pre-seed startups that don't take a piece of equity to get involved up front. We don't do that at CodeLaunch. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that what I want to do is help startups get to that level, and then we can have that conversation later. I don't want to mess up your cap table before it's due. And so what we do give our finalists is a whole bunch of services, a whole bunch of PR, a chance to compete in a public setting with a crowd, pitching, having to get challenged by the panel with Q&A, networking, and that's what we try to do with CodeLaunch. And that includes legal services, creative services, mentoring services, pitch coaching, digital marketing, professional software development, obviously the hackathon. That's the key, right? And so CodeLaunch is a seed accelerator that doesn't take equity up front and costs nothing to apply. I don't think there's anyone in America like that. If there is, let me know. So now I'm going to cover quickly. We're at 12:30. I got 15 more minutes. Quickly cover a CodeLaunch success story. I covered this one in the last Lunch and Learn too, because these guys have the most upward momentum of anyone that's ever come out of CodeLaunch, except for the one that we sold. So we did create one and sell one in the very first group, which was amazing. But since then, this group has topped them all, and they started by not winning CodeLaunch. So they were a finalist in 2016. They did not get a professional hackathon. They did get chosen by the judges for a couple of awards, I think most financial potential, and I also think best pitch. But the overall winner went to Park Up Front, who were also doing very well from that year. But these guys have raised a lot of money. They have they started with a very, very simple MVP. They got a whole bunch of pilot customers in their space to sign up and use their software. While they did that, they bootstrapped their own money. They raised some money and got it to the point now where they've raised several times and they've closed their seed round, and they're planning a Series A later this year. They have revenue, they have employees, they have an office, they have a product, they have customers, they have everything. They have a great leadership team. One of their guys has a lot of entrepreneurial experience. Another one has a lot of tech experience in startups. So keep your eye out for prosrent.com. Who started at CodeLaunch Floor by not winning. And then last year's finalist, I mentioned Carrot Quarter a minute ago. They were invited later in the fall to have an exhibit at CES in January. How about that? They're the first CodeLaunch finalists to ever go from CodeLaunch to CES. I believe as part of being at CES, they got a lot of investor interest. They were featured in the CES guide as like, go check out this, like these exhibits that have hot new tech. Their keyboard and user interface device is truly groundbreaking. And they closed a seed round of funding and are about to build the commercially viable MVP. So congrats to Carrot Quarter and Riley Keene from Atlanta, Georgia. And then also 3G Strong, a couple of local startup founders that at the time were part of the Frisco ISD school system in administration and teaching. They had vetted their concept with actual students over and over and developed really good content and all the curriculum for their product. And I think in the fall they raised funding and their product is being built, and it may already have been launched at this point. So 3G Strong was last year's winner as chosen by the crowd. Carrot Quarter, like ProsRent, didn't win and went on to make it to CES and get funding anyway. And here, I just thought I would throw in a picture from CodeLaunch Floor. You can see how crappy our screen was back then. It was a floppy, like 12 by 12 projector screen on a rickety piece of metal. Although we had a great MC that year with Susie Solis, who has been in Dallas-Fort Worth news and radio for a long time. So there's John Clark winning, what's it say, best pitch at CodeLaunch Floor. Congratulations, John, for not giving up. So this year, let's talk about CodeLaunch. When is it? It is September 7th through 10th. Now, 7th through 10th, that's the hackathons. The actual event that you will be interested in if you are not a finalist or if you want to attend is Thursday, September 10th at the Comerica Center Arena here in Frisco. It's right outside that window across the street from me. Applications are due, oh, I already put it in here, July 3rd. So there's my public announcement. We haven't changed the website yet. We haven't tweeted about it or anything like that, but we're moving the deadline back 3 days. So you'll have 3 extra days to get your CodeLaunch applications in. one fun fact is that it seems that almost everybody waits to the very last day because they're afraid that if they submit it today on May 10th, June 10th, that they will come up with some slide or a new twist on June 12th and then have to change it. So we get bombarded with the last 100 or 200 on the last day. So I guess that's just the way it is. Right now, we sit, as of last night at 9 p.m. when I finished this deck, we sit at 51 applications. But that may seem low, but they're all pretty good this year so far. We have a much more sophisticated applicant pool in the last 2-3 years than we did the first 4 or 5. And one thing you might find very interesting is that 14 countries represent those 51 applications across 4 continents. So the only continent that has not applied is South America, Antarctica, and what's the one I'm forgetting? South America, Antarctica, obviously nobody lives there. Australia, no one's applied from Australia this year so far. So tell your friends in Australia. You know, I had to go look. We have one from Honduras, and I had to go look up. Is Honduras South America? I know it's Central America, right? But that's not a full continent. So it turns out Honduras is actually on the very southern edge of North America. So we still need you guys in Brazil and other places in South America to apply. And then 13 of the 50 U.S. states. A lot of good ones. And I think there's only about 8 from Texas right now. So lots of room for you Texas guys to get your applications in. So we have arrived at the point where I am supposed to ask for questions. If anybody has any questions, John, could you read me one of those questions?
Question is, how are the entries looking so far this year compared to previous years?
So I just alluded to that on this slide, so I'll switch back to it. I would say that this year, the applicants are taking the ask of have a polished deck and have polished mock-ups or wireframes very seriously. And that is what I've noticed the most about the ideas. I also have noticed that we have a lot more interest from places far away. The ratio of Texas and local to faraway states and countries is much higher. And that is because we've had blogs and different people write articles about CodeLaunch and talk about the uniqueness of it and the special amenity that it has become to the tech startup community, and how just making it to the semifinalist list can be an achievement that helps you open doors. So they're looking good, and I'm really excited about this year's event. I think that we could have a good event with our 51 right now. Is there any more questions?
So next question, has CodeLaunch ever thought about going all over the US and not just here in Dallas?
Yeah, so I mentioned that about halfway through. My business partners with Improving definitely said when we first got together, we love CodeLaunch. What if we got together and we took CodeLaunch on the road? What if we produced the event in, let's say, Atlanta, Houston, Minneapolis, St. Paul, where we have Improving offices? What if we do it in other places too, where we don't have Improving offices, where any place where there's a thriving startup community and a lot of software development shops, we plan to go to. And I'm not joking about this, RB. I actually think that is a fantastic idea. And I'm seriously asking my friends and colleagues at Improving to get behind a actual touring bus that we drive around the country to the different places. So there's a good chance that we'll be pulling up the CodeLaunch bus next to an arena near you in the next 2, 3, 5 years.
What do you define as an MVP?
Okay, good. So that question is coming from someone who is considering applying, and they want to know if they're too far along to be eligible. I get that question every year, so I know that's what this is about. And that's a great question, because it is not, there's no objective way to determine if someone is at MVP. And many startup founders will invest in their product, and they want to get to MVP psychologically, so they get something built, and they put on Facebook, we're at MVP, go check out our MVP. But the truth is, it's not really viable. Unless someone can use it, get value out of it relative to its purpose, and if it's commercial in any way, pay for it, all wrapped up inclusively. And unless those three things are true and you have publicized that you are at MVP, then we're going to consider you probably not at MVP. If you have built something that you have publicized that you thought was at MVP, and then later you realized it was a buggy hunk of you know what, and you were not able to attract any users, and you realize now that the code might be something that you want to throw away and start over, well, then you're not at MVP and you're eligible. So there's some gray area there. If you have want me to take a serious look, I will. I'll just email me. I don't think my email's on one of these slides, but it's jtaylor@codeauthority.com. You can also contact us via the CodeLaunch website, and that just comes right to me. And I will answer your questions, and I'll take a look at your status. And I'm probably not going to take a look at your code, but I'll take a look at your story. And if I think that you're eligible and that it's fair for you to compete against somebody who maybe hasn't even taken any technology steps, I will allow you to be considered fairly.
Okay, next question. Do you notice a trend between the past winners in CodeLaunch?
So there may be some trends, but there have been no intentional trends. So one trend that developed the past 2 years is that both of the last 2 years finalists and winners were from Frisco. That is because we let the crowd decide the vote by using a texting app from a partner called, I just blanked on the name of our texting partner. Do you remember it? I apologize. I'll come back to that. We'll give them special PR this year. So we're going to put an element. We're going to weight the crowd this year, and we're going to let the judges weight, cost more, so that the Frisco Texas finalist, if there is one, there's not any that have applied right now. If that win, gets a lot of votes, they won't necessarily win. Another trend that's weird is that the last 2 events were both had children at the focus, and they both also had the word strong in their name. So 2 years ago was Kid Strong, which is mental and physical health for children in a gym setting. Last year was 3G Strong, which is emotional learning for students in elementary school in a school and homeschool setting. That is a complete coincidence. So I think this year, honestly, if your name has the word strong in it, we're probably not going to pick you. And we're going to be very hesitant to pick anybody from Frisco, Texas, because we don't want there to be any trends. We want it to be a wide open, completely unbiased, fair competition. Absolutely, we're committed to that.
Great.
Need more?
Let's see.
There's a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to get
I
hurried.
think we have time for one more question.
We can go all the way to 1 o'clock.
Okay.
For those of you that want to get your question, I'll go to 1 o'clock. So.
Do you see many entries related to health and wellness due to COVID-19?
So here's a behind the scenes curtain pullback. I don't have time on my business day to stop what I'm doing every time my CodeLaunch application comes in and then go through it. Honestly, I looked at them all last night to look at what state and country they were from. I didn't even look at anything else about them. I am guessing there's probably one in there by now that has something to do with that. But so far, I don't know. I will find out on July 3rd. Well, I'll find out on July 4th, maybe July 5th, if there's a bunch of pandemic-related concepts in there. And they're welcome. So we'll see.
In our pitch deck, should we talk about the founders or our story?
Absolutely. One thing that differentiates applicants is that they actually have a team. So what I've noticed is most of the CodeLaunch finalists that, even if they didn't win or they did win, but they went on to really do something after CodeLaunch, it was because it wasn't just one person. The one-person startup founder can come to CodeLaunch, not win, get a little dismayed, and give up too easy. A team that has lots of different experience in different areas of focus and expertise is much more likely to succeed. So we love it when the first slide is about the team and shows who they are and what their background is. So I would say that gives you a leg up, actually.
Okay, this may be the last question. Has it been decided who is emceeing the event this year?
It has not. I haven't talked to last year's MC, who did a great job, to ask him if he's interested again. I have had another third party ask if they could MC, and I'm seriously looking at that. I haven't had those discussions yet because honestly, I don't have 100% commitment from all the moving parts that we are going to be able to have the event in the arena, but I'm close. I'm really, really close, and I may find that out in the next 24 hours, and then I'll know. And there will be, once I know, there will be a black and white announcement on our social media that CodeLaunch is on like Donkey Kong, and it's going to be the real deal. So once I know that, then I'm going to reach out, about. So I'm not going to need it. If we have to do some kind of virtual thing, I am not going to need an MC. So if you are considering, if the person asking that wants to be MC, just let me know.
Okay, that's all the questions.
No more questions. Okay, well, thank you very much, everybody, for being a part of this virtual lunch and learn today. I hope that you will follow CodeLaunch, Code Authority, and Improving on social media. We're on all the platforms. I will be posting about that a lot in the next 20, 30 days and between now and the event. I also hope that you will check out all the other virtual lunch and learns that are on the improving.com website that are coming up. I know there's a great one tomorrow at noon. I also hope that you will follow us on LinkedIn, because we were given LinkedIn live stream permission a few weeks ago. And we're going to be breaking that in this sort of format, just sporadically with no planning. And I'm just going to come in and tell you breakthroughs and news and elements on CodeLaunch. For example, if I know we're going to have the full event, I'll be announcing that on LinkedIn and a live stream. So follow us on LinkedIn and all of our social media. Keep up with CodeLaunch and Improving virtual lunch and learns. Thank you, everybody. I can't wait for CodeLaunch. We'll see you then.